Hi there, this is Todd with Industrial Comfort, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to replace rotted wood window trim and replace it with vinyl so you never have to go through this process again. Now it's important that you catch this rot early because the last thing you want is for water to seep in through that rot and cause internal damage, either between the studs, window casings, on the drywall itself. It can cause a mess. Now the good news is that it's not that difficult to do, and I'll show you how we're going to do this. But first I'm going to get a close-up of this rot so that you can see what it looks like. Then we'll tear it out and replace with some vinyl. Spotting this rot is pretty easy. Not only will you see a bunch of discoloration, you also may see some cracking, some paint peeling, but the telltale sign is this squishiness in the wood. You can just almost put your finger right through it. So now I'll show you what it's going to take to tear this out, and we'll replace it with some vinyl. Now the process of tearing out the rotted wood trim requires a hammer and a nail puller. Now this wood is pretty soft from the rot, so it's fairly easy to get this hook behind the nail heads to ratchet out. Now I'm going to show you a close-up, but the good news with respect to using wood and nails is that over time the nails will begin to work themselves back out, and they'll create little divots that you can see here and here that show you exactly where the nails are, even though they've been painted and caulked over. So let me show you what these will look like with a close-up. So here are two great examples of bulging nail heads. I don't know if you can see this one that well, but again, we're just going to get the claw of this nail puller right beside it. We're going to hammer it in, and then we'll just take the nail out. Now the next thing that we're going to do is take a putty knife or a paint knife, and we're going to lift up this flashing. And the flashing is what prevents water from seeping in along the top edge of this trim, so it fits behind the siding board and then curls over. Now if we're going to remove this trim board, we're going to need to get this flashing up. The other thing that we're going to want to do is use the chisel here, or the paint scraper, and just punch a line between these two pieces of wood, because generally the paint and the caulking will cause these two pieces to adhere together. So it's going to be difficult to remove unless we break the seal here. I'm also going to chisel along the side where the trim meets the side here, the siding, because the paint will cause adhesion as well. I'm also going to run the paint scraper along the top behind the window here and against the trim, just to break the seal. This seems pretty stuck on here, so I'm just going to start chiseling away and we'll just pull it apart. I can't believe how saturated and moldy this wood is. So what I'm going to do now is just clean this channel out and make sure that there's no damage to the inside of the wall behind the trim. Now that I've cleaned the channel behind this window frame and cleaned up as much of the back here as I can, I'm going to apply some caulking just to seal up where the previous nail holes were. I just want to make sure that absolutely no moisture has an opportunity to get behind this. Perhaps an unnecessary step, but I'd rather be safe than sorry since this board's already off. Okay, for the next step, I'm going to go ahead and replace the board. Now, I took measurements ahead of time and cut the piece of replacement trim to size. Now, there are a number of different manufacturers that you can buy at any of these big box hardware stores. AZEK, Cortex, again, you know, it's kind of up to you. They're all paintable. The beauty is that a lot of the trim that we have on our homes is white anyway, and that's the color these plastics come in. So it's easy just to put in and replace. While this is not the same color white, and you'll see in a minute, it's close enough. So I'm not really going to worry about painting it. All we're going to need to do is drill it in with a Cortex system, which I'll show you how to use in a minute, and then just caulk it between the seams here for waterproofing. So let's get the board up and we'll screw it into place. I'm ready to put the replacement piece of vinyl trim in place. Now the good news is this vinyl trim comes in the same nominal dimensions as regular wood trim. It's also paintable in the event that the white doesn't match the trim that's already in place, or it doesn't match the other trim that you have on other windows on the house. The only downside is that vinyl trim is more expensive than wood. However, you're never going to have to do this again. That's why I love replacing this stuff with vinyl, because you only have to do it once. Now, once I have this vinyl board up, I'm going to put it in place with a vinyl fastening system, which I'll show you how to use in a second, and then we're just going to caulk the seams to keep the water out. Now these vinyl fastening systems come in two parts. The first part is a screw like this one instead of a nail that would traditionally be used for wood. And then these kits also come with these little plugs, and you can choose a number of different colors based on the color of your trim. So in this case I'm using white. Now the kit also comes with a bit like this, and the end of the bit has a little foam core. And this will prevent you from drilling the screw in too far. In fact, when you've reached the optimal depth, this will just start spinning freely to tell you that you're done. You'll then tap in one of these plugs and it will create a waterproof seal around the hole that you just drilled. So let me show you how it's done on this piece of vinyl that we just put in. Now, just like nails, I'm going to put these in about every 12 to 16 inches or so. And I'm going to put one on top and one on bottom. The next step is to tap in these little vinyl plugs to hide where we screwed in the screws. These just push in with your fingers and then you can tap them with a rubber mallet. Now I'm just going to pull this flashing down and hammer it into place with the rubber mallet. And as a final step, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to caulk the top of the window frame here, and then I'm going to caulk in the seams where these two joints are, and then caulk on the outside. Probably caulk a little bit here as well to make sure that there's no water getting in from the sides there, and then we'll be done. Now there's no question that this board needs to be replaced as well. Now it actually looks like it's in pretty good shape, so we don't need to replace the whole thing. I could just use an oscillating tool to just cut off a small piece to replace the section that's got a little bit of rot. So I'm just gonna leave some caulking here and I'll come back and do that at a later time because the process is the same. As I mentioned earlier, I'm also going to caulk the side here where the siding meets the trim. I'm actually going to be using some translucent caulking that goes on white, but it will dry clear. Now I did notice that the flashing does not completely cover the end of this trim board, and so it is possible that a lot of this rot developed because water was seeping in here. So I'm going to give this a very, very large amount of silicone over here or caulking. Just to make sure that no water gets in there. Make sure to come back in about 24 hours to check the caulking that you put behind this window frame. As caulking dries, it can shrink and it can also fall behind the frame a little bit, creating gaps. So you want to make sure that you don't have any gaps, and if you do, just reapply some caulking. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks.